My entitled sister tries to steal money out of my trust fund by calling them up, pretending to be me, all in some weird attempt to transfer money into her account. And right now, I'm honestly so shocked and disgusted by her actions that right now I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. I'm a 38-year-old female and my family is a little messed up. I have essentially had 5 parents and 3 different groups of siblings. So yeah, it's a bit much. As a child, I was living in the United States with my adoptive parents, and a lot of stuff went down that wasn't great. So I moved back to the United Kingdom when I was 9 years old. I had a lot of trauma and the beginnings of a rather serious substance problem, and so my dad in the United States set up a trust for me before he passed away so that anything mental health related was paid for and I didn't have to stress about being able to sort myself out as I got older. And it has been rather handy over the last 30 years, paying for a home when I was a teenager, as well as therapy and rehab. Basically anything needed to help me not pass away. At some point in my teenage years, I made contact with my biological parents and their other kids, and I was somewhat welcomed back into the fold. Now, some of my full siblings had issue with this, which is fair enough, and it was a big change to everyone's lives. My little sister apparently found it particularly hard, and so we've never got along and have been no contact for almost a decade. This has become particularly apparent in the recent weeks after she contacted the solicitors who are in control of the trust, pretending to be me from a rehab facility in the United States. Apparently, she sent them an invoice for a 3-month stay, requesting payment to the bank account of a friend of hers in the United States. The first I heard about this was a phone call from said solicitors offering me their commiseration that I was due to enter the facility, wishing me luck and double checking the details. And when I heard this, I was absolutely livid, as I realized right then and there that I was being scammed. This is tens of thousands of pounds that she's tried to steal from me, money that she has absolutely no right to. She never met my adoptive parents, she's not owed any money from them, and she's lived a perfectly normal life with both of her parents, her other siblings, going on holidays, having her university paid for, and never having any real big dramas. And she thinks that she can just take them from me because she wants to buy a house, and thinks that I should help her out because I ruined her childhood. Except she can't even ask me about it, and instead she has to try and steal it from me. I have no idea what to do about this, because if I go to the police, then I'll create even more drama in the family that I really could do without. And I feel like that's exactly what she wants. Our parents will side with her and she knows it. I don't want to give her the satisfaction, but I'm just so mad that she chose this specific way to try and take what's not hers. It feels like such a low blow. What should I do? Oh my gosh, I cannot imagine running into this scenario because this is crazy. Bro, you're telling me this lady literally was like, oh yeah, I'm the original poster. I'm going back to rehab. Send me money to the United States. It's like, dude, what are we talking about? That is crazy. Thank goodness these people had the right mind to call you and be like, oh, okay, we just want to work out the details, because this is crazy. This is some criminal level stuff. And the fact that she tried to steal your trust fund and be like, okay, I'm gonna get this out of you, all because you allegedly ruined her childhood, like that is some crazy levels of weird. I just can't even describe it. And also, if she really thinks that you ruined her childhood, why would she go back to you to try and steal from you? That literally solves nothing. If anything, it's just gonna get her in hot water. Like, why on earth would she willingly do that to herself? So yeah, if I was in your shoes, I would stay no contact with that lady, because clearly she's a disgruntled adult who has no way of coping with her current problems. Because in my opinion, what she tried to do is incredibly criminal. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for refusing to cover outrageous costs for my future sister-in-law's bridal shower after I was told that I would have to foot the bill as well as all the other bridesmaids that are involved? And with the cost of this event going up further and further than I expected, I'm now at a point where I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. I'm a 23-year-old female and I'm going to be a bridesmaid in my fiance's older sister's wedding, which is set for October of 2025. While I'm excited to be part of her big day, I've been a bridesmaid before and I know how expensive it can be. The costs for this wedding are piling up quickly. I've already paid $300 for the bridesmaid dress, the required shoes, and $1,000 for the destination bachelorette trip. Initially, we were told there was no pressure to attend, but her mom later said that it was awful, that some bridesmaids were considering skipping due to the cost, so I definitely felt pressured to go. After we booked the trip, the maid of honor informed us that we would also be covering all of the bride's costs during the trip, namely the food, the drinks, or literally anything else. This was never discussed beforehand and added another unexpected expense on top of an already expensive trip. My future mother-in-law mentioned that as a bridesmaid, I'm expected to help pay for the bridal shower. She said she she Googled it and found that the bridesmaids are responsible for the costs and not her as the mother of the bride. In all of the weddings I've been a part of, the bridal shower costs were primarily covered by family or a family friend who volunteered to host at their home, and the bridesmaids usually help with smaller things like games and decorations. I don't mind contributing to the bridal shower, but it needs to be within reason. With everything else I've already paid for, it's becoming unmanageable, especially since I'm trying to save for my own wedding, which is planned for mid-2026. My future sister-in-law is expecting a full catered bridal shower with elaborate decor, which feels unrealistic for a group of bridesmaids to fund. It also seems like she's picking things that aren't even within her budget and assuming others will cover the difference. So seriously, am I the jerk for wanting to set boundaries around the bridal shower cost, especially when it feels like at every turn, an unexpected expense comes up without any discussion? And trust me, I know that weddings are expensive, especially as I'm currently planning one out myself. But how much is too much to ask your bridesmaids to pay? In previous weddings I was a bridesmaid in, I would spend about a little over $1,000 in total. But in this case, that's not even covering the bachelorette trip. I do want to make this whole thing special for her, but it's just starting to get very costly, and I know the other bridesmaids are feeling the pressure too. We are all so young and we're just starting out our careers. So would I be the jerk here? Because right now I don't know what to do. Okay, first off, I don't think you would be the jerk here because I have never heard of anybody covering the cost of the wedding other than the parents or like the immediate family. Since when does the bridesmaid have to cover everything? That is so foreign to me. I've literally never heard of that. And it kind of makes me think that the mother-in-law is just straight up lying and she's trying to save costs by being like, oh no, that's coming out of your pocket. And they really seem like they're trying to take advantage of you. And just look at this mother-in-law's logic. Okay, so she saw it on Google. It's like, okay, cool. What is that supposed to mean? Why are we allowing Google to dictate who is and is not paying for this stupid wedding? Because in my opinion, whoever hosts or plans the bridal shower, they're the ones that need to pay. Because if the bridesmaids are the ones that are funding it, then they get to call the shots on how much they're gonna spend. Not just be handed a bill and be like, okay, you need to pay this. This is your obligation. This is what Google says. Like, this is all so ridiculous in my opinion. So no, you're not the jerk here. I think you're absolutely being taken advantage of. And I think setting some clear expectations, regardless of how pissed off they might get, in my opinion, is super important in this scenario. My classmates from 5th grade ended up getting married together, all because of a prank that I played on them when we were kids. And even now, I'm honestly amazed by the way I played Cupid without even realizing it, as they are now a happy family with a kid. Here's what happened. Okay, so when I was in primary school, I was a bit of a chaotic little gremlin. I had this thing that I would do where I'd write fake love notes to girls, pretending they were from the sweatiest, stinkiest, most questionable guys in class. Now, why, you might ask? I did this purely out of pettiness, and it was my twisted way of getting back at girls I didn't like. There was this one girl, let's call her Wilma for the sake of the story, and I absolutely could not stand her. She was my mortal enemy in the 5th grade for reasons I can't even remember now. And then there was Alex, the unfortunate sweaty guy of the class. Alex smelled like sour milk that had been left out in the sun, and he was a little on the chubby side. And so, obviously, I decided they were the perfect victims for my master prank. I carefully crafted a love note in Alex's handwriting, which was basically just a series of crooked chicken scratches. And the note said something like, "Hi Wilma, I like you. Do you want to date me? From Alex." I slipped it into her bag during lunch, thinking this was going to be the most epic prank of all time. After lunch, Wilma found the note and went absolutely bananas. She was showing it to everybody, saying stuff like, "Oh my god, Alex likes me." I tried to play it cool and ask her what it said, and all she said was, "None of your business." Well, here's where it gets wild. Alex didn't even deny it. He just stood there, probably sweating even more than usual, and said something like, "Yeah, maybe I do." Meaning that my brilliant prank totally backfired, because not long after, Wilma and Alex started hanging out during lunch. They would sit together, giggling and sharing sandwiches, while I sat there stewing in my own failure. Fast forward to years later, and I was bored and stalking Wilma's social media. And guess what? She freaking married him. They have a kid together and everything, all because of me. I mean, I played Cupid without even meaning to. Sometimes I'd lie awake at night, wondering if I should send them an anonymous message, saying something like, "Hey, congrats on the family. By the way, your whole relationship started as a petty prank, so you're welcome." But either way, this whole scenario is kind of wild. Okay, this might be the first time where I can confidently say that the original poster is the bully of this story. Like seriously, what is going on right now? This guy's trying to make it sound like, oh yeah, they have a family because of me. And it's like, yeah, and you probably have no one because of you as well. Like for starters, why in the world would you treat people like this? You're already making fun of the quiet fat kid in the corner, and you decide to pair him up with a girl that you don't like for some reason that you can't even remember. And in fact, the original poster goes on to clarify that they actually had a crush on this girl. So basically, you tried to bully the quiet kid and get back at a girl that clearly did not like you. And then here you are trying to be like, wow, they have a family because of of me. I didn't mean to play Cupid. I should really message them. And it's like, dude, this happened back in 5th grade, and you're still bragging about that as some kind of accomplishment? First of all, don't ever message those people ever again. But also, my man, it's time to grow up and move on. If some of your greatest accomplishments are literally something you did in 5th grade, then you need to get out there and live life more, because it really doesn't sound like you have grown up at all. And in the end, I think you're still that same bully from 5th grade, looking on as everybody else has moved on and you're basically left in the dust. An entitled jerk unsuccessfully tried to steal my airline window seat, refusing to move and literally looking at me as if I'm the crazy one. But thankfully, I stood up for myself and I didn't take his garbage, forcing him in his shame to move over so that I could take my seat. And it honestly felt so good to watch his face drop as he realized he was not going to win this interaction. Here's what happened. Okay, so while I was boarding my flight, I realized that some entitled idiot who had earlier pushed past other passengers to board first in priority group 1 was now sitting in my window seat. When I got to my row, I pointed and politely told him that he was in my seat, but he just looked at me and said, "Oh, what seat are you supposed to be in?" I told him, "Well, it's 11F, the window seat you're sitting in." I then proceeded to load my luggage into the overhead bin, and as I did so, the other guy in the aisle seat got up to let me move over to my seat, but guess what? This entitled idiot wouldn't budge. This guy just watched me load my stuff overhead, hoping that I would forget or something like that, and finally just accept his middle seat, which guess what? Is his seat. For context, I'm a 5'11" female, and I would never book a middle seat and risk being wedged between two people my size or larger. So after I finished loading my stuff, I just waited patiently for him to start unbuckling himself, collect his crap from under the seat, and then finally move. A couple other people also repeated to him that he was in the wrong seat, as I'm guessing they assumed that he was deaf, even though he wasn't. Well, there was no movement from this idiot, so I continued to wait in the aisle, resulting in a very satisfying staring contest that lasted at least 20 seconds before he finally started to pretend to fumble in his pockets for his boarding pass. I finally told him that we were all happy to hold up the plane and wait for him to move so I could get seated in the seat that I was clearly assigned on my boarding pass. And it honestly felt so good to stand up for myself, because there was no way I was gonna let this entitled jerk get his way. Oh, I love this for so many reasons, because seriously, I can't imagine someone having the guts to be like, "Oh no, I'm taking this seat. This is where I'm supposed to sit." And then just sitting there obnoxiously expecting you to roll over and just be like, "Okay, you can have it, no worries." Like, this is really not a hard concept. When you get on an airplane, you have a seat that you're supposed to go to. And I don't care if you picked that seat or if the airline picked it for you. Congratulations, that's where you're sitting for the next few hours. So for anybody to realistically in today's day and age sit there and be like, "Well, I want to sit here instead," it's like, no man, you're not doing that. Get out of my seat that I probably paid more for and let me sit down. So seriously, I'm really glad that you stood up for yourself, because people like this absolutely deserve to be shut down. Am I the jerk for asking someone to move out of my way in front of the disabled toilet, as they were literally preventing me from going to the bathroom, as I have a medical problem where I need to go to the bathroom, otherwise I'm in a lot of pain? Because right now I'm worried that I responded very rudely, and at this point I don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so this is something that I've been ruminating on for a while. I went to a show on the weekend. I'm disabled, so rarely do I go to these things. And usually I get an aisle seat so I can go to the bathroom easily. Without oversharing, I have to frequently go to the bathroom, and if I don't, it can be very painful. I have adenomyosis, as well as a neurological disorder. At this show, tickets sold out quickly, and my friend booked them and said there wasn't a way to get to an aisle, so I just had to hold on. I went before and I would go at intermission, but it was completely worth it as I had a great time. At halftime, I was very uncomfortable and very sore, so I got up and I hurried to the bathroom. I assumed two people standing outside the bathroom were just leaning on the wall, so I walked past them with my radar key on hand. They then told me that they were in queue, so I waited, with one of them being very drunk. They went in together as they were a pair, and I waited outside. While I waited, I could smell cigarette smoke as I have a strong sense of smell. They took a while in the bathroom, not that I'm judging, and it probably felt longer as I was in agony at this point and rather grumpy. So when they came out, they were taking a while. One of them was corralling the drunk person, and it was taking forever. So I said to them, "Excuse me, I can't hold my bladder." They then immediately got angry with me and said, "Well, neither can I, you're being so rude." But I responded by saying, "That's nice, can I go pee now?" And this is all because they were standing in my way, and at this point, I'm doubled over. Adenomyosis is not comfortable at the best of times, and I can get very snappy when I'm sore. Well, eventually I get in, I sort myself out in the bathroom that stinks of cigarettes, and then I get back into the auditorium. When I pass them, they get upset with me again, saying how I was really rude and that I should be more patient. But I explained to them that I was in a lot of pain, and I apologized for snapping. They explained they also had issues issues and assumed that I was being rude as their illness wasn't visible. But still, am I the jerk? Is there not a jerk in this situation? Honestly, I don't know. But I've been really stuck in overthinking it. On one hand, it feels like a big misunderstanding, but on the other hand, it comes to me when I'm relaxing and it just makes me cringe. What should I do? No, I don't think you're the jerk at all. It honestly seems like there was some major miscommunication in the heat of the moment, and I think moving on from this will really be the best option, because at the end of the day, you will literally never see these people again. And whether or not they understand where you're coming from is honestly something I would not try to focus on. My girlfriend doesn't drive, and she doesn't have a driver's license. And now, after driving her around for the 6 years that we've been together, I'm honestly at my breaking point and I really feel worn down, because at this point, I don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so my girlfriend and I have been together for 6 years. She doesn't have a driver's license, and while it didn't bother me at first, it has been weighing on me more lately. We met in college, and back then, she took the bus everywhere, and I admired her for that because it showed resourcefulness, and I was inspired by her work ethic, balancing a full-time school schedule and a job. It was one of the things that drew me to her. When we started dating, I became her personal driver, taking her to school, work, and home. At the time, I didn't mind. However, as the years have gone by, I feel like the dynamic has shifted, and I'm starting to feel the strain. During our second year together, I suggested that she learn to drive. She seemed excited at first, but as time went on, the plans to practice driving would get postponed due to finals or other stressors. Eventually, she became upset when I brought it up, saying it added to her stress. Well, I respected her feelings and dropped the topic until after college. She graduated in 2023, while I graduated in 2022, and I started working full-time shortly after that. Over the next 6 months, I suggested driving lessons again, but the conversation led to her becoming upset. I decided to focus on supporting her and didn't push the issues any further. However, I started feeling burnt out from driving her everywhere, especially since she didn't have a job or taking any steps towards driving. At the start of 2024, she seemed more motivated. She agreed to practice driving, and we had made plans to practice on the weekends. While the first few weekends went well, I noticed a lack of follow-through on her end. If I didn't wake up, she wouldn't call or text me as we had agreed, and on the days I did wake up, she sometimes wouldn't respond. This pattern made me feel like I was putting in more effort than she was. In June, she finally got a job, but works an unusual schedule from Saturday to Wednesday, starting at 7 o'clock in the morning. And since she doesn't drive, I have to take her to work. This requires waking up early on weekends and driving long distances during the week, about 80 miles a day, including the trips to my job and back. And by the time I get home, I'm exhausted and barely have time for myself. I feel like my personal time has disappeared. I'd like to work out after work, take a mixology class, or even just sleep in on the weekends. However, my responsibilities with her and sometimes her family make it hard to prioritize myself. I'm not sure how to address this without feeling hurt or blamed. I miss the hardworking and independent person I first met, and I want to find a way to communicate my feelings effectively while also finding a balance. How can I navigate this situation and express my needs without causing unnecessary conflict? What should I do? Okay, honestly, in my opinion, the fact that she is 26 years old and doesn't have a driver's license or has any aspirations to actively get one is unacceptable and not fair for you. You said it yourself, and I think you've hit the nail on the head. This is wearing you down and you literally just can't do anything else. Like, I know if I was in that situation, I would be incredibly pissed off and very stressed out. Because seriously, you are stuck driving her everywhere. You somehow became her personal chauffeur, and that is not fair for you in the slightest. So I can say, in my opinion, this really would be a deal breaker after a while, especially after 6 years and she still hasn't taken any time to get this done. So hopefully this works out, because honestly, this sounds incredibly obnoxious. My entitled grandma almost makes me walk home instead of just driving me over there, all because she was really impressed by the way she parked in a parallel parking spot. And I'm honestly still dumbfounded by this level of idiocracy that I seriously hope I don't deal with her in this way ever again. Here's what happened. So during my freshman year of college last year, my grandma agreed to pick me up from school for spring break and take me out to dinner. I was pretty happy because her and my grandfather had been in Florida for months, and I hadn't seen them in a while. First of all, she never reached out to me directly, and I found out she was picking me up from my mom. I was 19 at the time, I wasn't home, and very much had a phone, so I don't know why she was using my mom as a middleman. So I get packed up, and I'm sitting in my dorm waiting for her. Now, this is very important to the story. One of the things I was bringing with me was my betta fish, since I was going to be gone for over a week. I get a call from my dad, and he tells me that my grandma got in a car accident. No one was hurt, but apparently her tire popped. I will also add that she said her tire popped because the guy had something sticking off of his car, but honestly, it kind of seemed like she hit the guy. And it's like, okay, that's fine. I had to be out of the dorm by 7, but I understood if she couldn't get me. me. She ends up leaving her car with AAA and comes to get me in my mom's car. I put all my stuff in the back, and I'm sitting in the front seat with her with my fish in a container in my lap. We then get to the restaurant, which is a block away from my house, and we park in front. Her car had been fixed and parked across the street from where we were. And then one of the weirdest conversations I've ever experienced happened right in front of me, and I'm honestly still scratching my head over this one. She says to me, "Okay, is there anything you need to bring with you tonight?" Now, when she said this, I'm immediately confused. I had all of my clothing, my laptop, and a live animal swimming around in my lap. In fact, I had a birthday party to go to the next day. So I say to her, "Well, I need my clothes." And then she says to me, "Okay, then you're gonna have to move it to my car right now because I'm not driving you home in your mom's car after dinner." When she said this, my eye twitched. At this point, I am beyond confused. My mom was at work at the restaurant we were going to. She wouldn't be home until midnight, which means anything I left in that car, I would not have access until midnight. The restaurant was a block away from my house. So I ask her, why can't I just drop my stuff off there and go back? She looks at me and says, "I did a really good job parking." At this point, I kind of nervously laugh because it's like, what are you talking about? And then I paused to wait for her to laugh too, but she didn't. After a long silence, she gets out of the car and tells me to start getting my stuff. I'm holding a poor betta fish in my hands, and I'm mentally preparing to leave her in the car in 30-degree weather for over an hour at the demand of this obstinate retiree, when suddenly she looks down and goes, "No, my car's not that straight. We can go to your house and drop off your stuff there." So after all that, we ended up going to my house anyways. And at this point, I'm fuming for the rest of the night. When I got home, I told my parents what happened, and they were both also extremely confused. Just a whole lot of confusion across the board, all because of my grandmother and this stupid parking spot. It is always amazing to me that people can be so self-centered that they literally miss everything else that's going on around them. Like they are so wrapped up in their own personal accomplishments or stuff they have going on, where they're like, "Wow, I did a good job parallel parking." But then they're like, "Oh yeah, by the way, the person that you drove there, they've got a living animal and all their crap with them. Do you really expect them to leave it in this freezing cold car while you guys go into a restaurant to eat? Not to mention the fact that the house is literally a block away. Like, what is going on right now?" So yeah, your grandma was completely wrong for acting like that and for even pretending like she was gonna make you walk to the house. Because I know if I was in that situation, I would be incredibly annoyed. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications. To finish listening to all the stories, check out the playlist at the top of the description. And if you want some chill music to put on in the background, check out easymode.com. If you like Am I the Jerk, subscribe to Am I the Genius. Everything will be linked down below in the description.